Now then, you've also got a night out with your chum, Mr. Levy, are you not? Because are you going to, am I right in thinking you're a guest at Tottenham Manchester United in the Carabao Cup?
Yeah, I'm going
quarter-final
on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm not a guest of Daniel's. I mean, I'll see Daniel when I'm there, but I'm going there with Rob Seagal, actually.
Oh, Rob Seagal, one of the good guys, football agent.
Indeed, yeah. He's a big Tottenham fan and often asks me to come along to Tottenham games. And I fancied having a look at Man United.
Okay.
In the flesh, seeing Amorim, what he's all about.
Well, it's a big few days for Tottenham, Simon, of that there is no doubt. Manchester United in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, and then Liverpool in the league 3 days later. So we know what happened last night down at St Mary's because Tottenham took to the field, went 5-0 up against Southampton, romped it, and the scoreline stayed 5-0. But perhaps pre-match was when I really tuned in to what Ange Postecoglou was saying, because he was again pushed, not for the first time, on whether or not he accepts that there's a wider issue with Spurs as a club in terms of mentality, fragility, the Spursy moniker. And this really got to Ange.
I'm sick of that. That's an excuse for me.
Yeah.
And that's why, even with sort of Christian Romero's comments, I just think that's an excuse. Like, at the moment, I'm here. I take responsibility. These players, we're here. So if we think something's, exists, some mythical thing exists in this club that prevents success, we'll change it. Well, what's the point otherwise? Don't come here. I just don't buy into that. At the moment, like I said, we're in a difficult situation because of kind of where we are squad-wise and team-wise. And, you either embrace this challenge. If you want excuses, there's a million of them. Absolutely. There's a million excuses as to why, we can't be successful. But if that's what your clutch is, particularly in tough moments, then what's the point? Just move on then, go somewhere else. We're in a fight here, like we're in a fight. I'm not going to go around worrying about people's bruised egos. Yeah, this football club, we want to achieve things. We want to be successful, and we're down to the bare bones in players. I'm not going to, if there's somebody in that dressing room who's fit, able to contribute, that feels like he needs something extra in this moment, he's probably not the right type.
Do you know what? I love that. Ange in full flow there. And I think he's absolutely right, Simon. If we think something mythical exists in the club that prevents success, then change it. What's the point otherwise? Don't come here. I just don't buy into that. Now, they might be a bit threadbare in terms of the squad. They go out and do a job in Southampton. Mm-hmm. Yep, sure. We know that they've got their challenges, and Russell has gone from there. But he's right, isn't he? He's right. Is he the man to change it? I mean, he backs himself and says he will be.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is when the argument gets presented, when you're beating Brighton 2-0 and you lose 3-2, when you're doing the same to Chelsea and you end up losing the game, and the question starts to abound about what Spurs are and what they're not. And when you go and beat sides and then you go and lose to Ipswich, or you go and lose other games that you wouldn't have expected Tottenham Hotspur to have lost in, and that's the challenge that he has to face. I mean, he's been there for 18 months. The culture of the football club is beginning to be morphed into his personality. The players a lot of them now are his recruits. A lot of them are not, but a significant proportion of them are. So, look, I don't know what... I like the fact that he's talking about calling out the culture of giving it as an excuse.
Yes.
Some of the things that Ange has said recently I don't necessarily agree with, and some of the manners in which he's chosen to address certain subjects I think has been slightly unwise. But I like him. I can't fail to like him.
Would you be happy? Would Daniel be happy? I know Daniel thinks for himself, but would he be happy when he first heard Ange say, "In my second season, I'll win a trophy"? I usually do.
Yeah, well, of course, because that's what he's brought him in to do.
Right.
I mean, there is a perception of Daniel Levy that I think is slightly flawed, and people will suggest it's because I've got an allegiance to him. That's not true. I just see both sides of the equation. They have to put trophy-ware in that cabinet of theirs somewhere along the line. And I do think that Daniel wants to do that. People look at the spending pattern of Tottenham Hotspur. They look at the amount of money that's made in the past. They look at the cost implications of it and think that perhaps the ownership model is holding it back. Well, I suspect if you judge the ownership model by what Manchester City have spent and what others have spent, then you're going to be in that situation. But that's not the ownership model you've got. If you get an oligarch in that comes in now, or you get a Gulf state that comes in and buys the football club, which might be in play, who knows? Joe Lewis may well want to sell his shares and there may well be opportunities in that space for someone to change the ownership model. Then you've still got to get around PSR. You've still got to get around the challenges that all football clubs have.
Sure.
I mean, I think Ange Postecoglou has a chance. I mean, I'm fascinated to see what happens on Thursday, because that then gives them an opportunity to be in the semi-finals of a major competition that could provide them with a trophy.
Yeah.
Whether the ambition was to win the League Cup, in the same way that whether Newcastle's, Gulf State owners are going to be so enthused by winning the League Cup if Newcastle beat Brentford when they play their quarter-final, and obviously the semi-finals to play. I mean, Tottenham, to me, are a long way off from winning the Premier League, but I don't think they're a long way off from winning a Europa League or a League Cup. And will that quench the thirst of the Tottenham fans? They've got a team that plays entertaining football, so that box has been ticked.
Yeah.
They now want it to have a bit more savvy at certain times when it gets into a situation. It needs better players. It needs to keep on evolving. I mean, I do think Tottenham will win something with Postecoglou if they stay with him. I think it will be a cup. I don't think it will be the Premier League anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I certainly think they can win a cup.
I mean, it'll be significant in itself if they beat United in the quarterfinals, and then that final looms that bit closer.
I mean, it depends upon who they've got available to play in this game. So if it's a battle of the threadbare squads, I don't know what that says. If Tottenham have got a strong side out there, I would expect Tottenham to beat Manchester United.
Yeah.
At the stadium, at the Tottenham Stadium, because they're playing at home in front of a further fan base in the quarterfinals of a cup, and United are no great shakes right now.
You know these people. I don't. Well, I know Daniel. I've certainly never met Joe Lewis, but as and when he does sell, he's 87, multi-billionaire. Yeah. As and when he does sell his shares, will Tottenham necessarily change overnight for better or for worse?
Well, that can only be discussed when you see who the ownership is. I mean, a lot's been made of the lack of success of Tottenham. They are in a position now with this stadium and all the harnessing of the revenues that they now produce as a result of this stadium to really have a go again. I mean, the questions were asked significantly of Tottenham Hotspur about why they didn't back Pochettino after the Champions League final that they didn't turn up in. That was the opportunity. Yet you hear David Pleat in a room saying, with no particular allegiance or reason for it, the manager didn't want anything. So that can't be Levy. I mean, maybe Levy should have gone downstairs and forced him to have 100 million quid for players, and then that would be wrong too. So
that would surprise you, wouldn't it? A manager not wanting anything.
Well, Slot didn't want anything.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I would suspect that it's more often than not managers want something. But if a manager doesn't want anything and you're just giving him something just for the pure hell of it, what's the point of that? I do question some of the purchasing policies. I do question the identity of signings like Timo Werner, who I think is a speedboat without a brain. You look at other signings that I think are a little bit... they'll get Spurs playing very well, but will they get them winning things? I don't know. But I like Postecoglou. I think he does tie himself up in knots sometimes with some of the things, the way he wants to deal with the media. But I also think he's a straight shooter. There'll be a lot of questions. We keep on about the way he wants to play and his refusal to adapt the philosophy. I think what he wants to play is winning football, know that the culture of the players understand that. That's why he's pushing back against Romero's observations. He did it against Romero specifically, and I think the player had to apologise. He's now doing it in and around the objective, because last year he was very cross with the notion that Tottenham Hotspur should want to do anything to stop Arsenal winning the league, which is to lose to Man City, and he didn't like that at all.
Right.
And I like that about him.
Sure. Okay, you will take it in at first hand because Tottenham take on Manchester United in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals this very week. Simon will be there, so we'll talk sport. It's live on talkSPORT.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.